Hey, I just wanted to make a quick video about my propane tank stove that I made just a couple days ago, and show you kind of how I did it. I took a little bit of design ideas from scouring YouTube and seeing what designs I liked and how I wanted to incorporate them into my stove. So one of them that I really liked was how Redneck 79 did the door on his using the base ring as the door opening. I thought that was a genius idea, so that's how I did mine. I incorporated a rope seal door because mine's going to go into a living space area, and also was able to fit 4 fire bricks inside of it, so that helps tremendously with heat retention. Put a baffle in the pipe just the other day. I burnt it a few times without a baffle, and it burnt fine, but it did consume wood pretty quickly. So what I did was I just used the handle that you cut off for his style of stove, and took the handle and made it my baffle. So anyway, here's what the stove looks like. So if you can see in there, there's 4 fire bricks, kind of looks like a Star Wars Darth Vader ship or whatever. And up in there is the baffle that was originally the handle. So the 4-inch pipe is what the exhaust is. It's actually 4-inch exhaust tubing. It's pretty cheap. You can get a 10-foot stick of it for like $50, and it's a pretty thick wall. So it protrudes into the stove by about 2 inches. And so I cut the opening for the door, and then this is 1/4-inch round rod welded to it, which gave me a nice little area for the rope seal to go in. It's not even glued in, it just presses in there and stays there. And the door has 3/16 round welded so that it seals up against the rope. So this is one air inlet, and then I also use the ash pan, which is this guy right here. A lot of times when I'm burning, I will have this cracked open to about there, and the way the holes are cut into the bottom, it won't allow the ash to go behind the pan. So I can use this as also air inlet. Works out pretty slick. So it took a while to figure out the door hinge geometry. The first hinge I made just like Nick makes on his, and it didn't work on this because the 2 pieces of round rod would catch each other and wouldn't allow the door to open. So I had to mess around with cardboard and come up with a template and whatever, but finally it worked out pretty good. So, and then yeah, just basically that's it. Usually run you can run rounds in there up to this size and this size easy. I usually cut my firewood and then I'll process it down from this size to, I'd probably cut that into 1/4s or 1/3s. Some of these I would burn whole. And the paint is Rutland stove paint, and I've had it up to, with a heat gun, I've had this area right in this spot up to over 800 degrees, and the paint is still holding up real well. So I recommend that paint thus far anyway. The handle, this is just a 3/8 rod that I bent, and it's an AMC 360 V8 valve spring. So yeah, that's basically it. The grate is out of a grill, some form of a charcoal or gas grill. There's a fella here who I work on a lot of his garbage trucks. He's got a mixed fleet of garbage trucks, and everybody brings all their junk steel and stuff to him in his yard, and so there were all these grates laying around, so I just hang on to them. This is the best style to use if you can find this one that has the 3 sections. That one works really good, because if you cut it off this section here, get rid of it, and then cut off, I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4 of these, so you would have this section right here, fits in there perfect, right through the 8-inch. I think my door opening is right around 8 inches, and that works fantastic. So if you have a junkyard or a scrap yard or a steel yard, if you can, at the same place where you probably can source your tanks, you'll be able to source some of that grate, and it works real good. And then Tractor Supply stores usually have the fire brick. I think I paid at Tractor Supply, I paid $3 a brick, so not too bad. And then to keep the large chunks of coals from going down in the bottom, this you can kind of see maybe the little fine wire mesh down there. That is off of a big air filter, like on a big semi diesel truck or whatever, or a dozer or something. They all have that expanded metal around them, and I just cut it there, and it works good to keep the big chunks out of the ash pan. I realized I didn't go over how I made the ash pan, so you can see how it's underneath the stove there. And what it is it's more of that 4-inch exhaust tubing. And what I did was I took a round piece of it and cut it in half. And when you lay two round pieces inside of one another, obviously they don't quite fit. So I just crushed it in the vise so that this piece would saddle inside of this one. And in doing so, then it makes this one here almost seem longer, and it fits, and it doesn't sit in it perfectly. Sits in it fine, but it's in essence longer. So then I just trimmed off about a 1/2 inch of it, and excuse me, and then just built these ends for it, welded them in, and that gave me the tray. I'm thinking this is a 4-inch. I have a chunk of 5-inch exhaust, and I think I might try that. It'll be a little larger. It's not a problem. The ash pan isn't full after I've burnt this thing about 4 or 5 times out on my driveway, and it's not enough to completely fill the pan, but it's pretty close. And it'd be nice if a person didn't have to clean it every single burn, so I may try the 5-inch piece just for the heck of it on the next stove. So anyway, there's a little bit of detail on the ash pan. Alright, well, I guess we would all agree that no stove video is complete without it burning, right? I'll agree with that, because I don't know how many times I watched a bunch of videos and there was no burn. I'm like, that's half the fun. So I'm not going to leave you hanging. I'll actually burn it. And one thing I've noticed with my stove in particular is because my main air inlets are through the ash pan and primarily actually through the door, when I refuel the stove, I always rake the coals forward because the air wash is going in over top of it, and it tends to help ignite the new fuel that's put in the stove. There's some big pieces of fuel there. There we go. God, she's going to take off now. Yeah, you can almost watch, you can watch the stack temp rise. I've had, with this particular stove, I've had it wrapped clear around to almost 100 again, which is in excess of 800. dig it. It's a pretty pleasurable and enjoyable thing for me anyway, just feeding a wood stove. My inefficient stove in the shop, I'll sit out there on the coldest of days and be a slave to the stove, and I don't care. I mean, I go through probably 5 cords of wood in the winter because it's a super old earth stove. I have no damper in the pipe. It has no baffle. It has no secondary burn. The rope seal on the door, I've tried to replace the rope seal, but the only rope seal widths I've seen is up to 3/4 inch, and it's got a huge gap where the rope seal seals up, so it just burns like a freight train. I have another glass door I'm going to graft onto it, but I don't think I'll get to it this year. Oh well, we'll just burn wood. And one thing I wanted to mention too is a lot of people put the damper in the little butterfly in the exhaust. I'm not doing that. The baffle's good enough. Anytime you damp that down, you wind up with lots of a cooler chimney temp, which propagates creosote buildup, and I'm not doing that. So I don't know. That's one thing I'm against. I'm down with the baffle. The baffle has helped the burn time of this thing considerably, so that's good, you know. And you know, everybody wants to talk about how clean their stoves burn, which is a good trait to have, obviously. But the second you choke any stove down, watch, I'll choke this down. There we go. There's your smoke. And that's going to happen no matter what. Maybe if it had a secondary burn, that wouldn't happen. But any of these that you choke down, it's fuel richened right now. It's got a lot of fuel, no oxygen. So we just open everything back up again. Give it a few seconds. Let it get the fuel good and hot again, and then boom, it's back to cleaning up. It's clear again. So take away from that what you will. I don't know. Anyway, thanks for watching.